Over the course of our existence, humankind has had to deal with many environmental changes. One of the most widespread of these events was the Last Glacial Maximum. This was the most recent time in history when the ice sheets of the last glacial period were at their greatest extent. When the Earth goes through these cooling events, known as ice ages, drought, desertification, and lowered sea levels are the effects other than the drop in temperature. When the Last Glacial Maximum, or LGM, was in swing 25,000 years ago, the people in Europe had to cope with formidable environmental changes. The archaeological culture in Europe that had to change and adapt in response is known as Solutrean. The Solutreans were an archaeological culture of people who lived in the regions of southern France and the Iberian Peninsula starting around 25,000 years ago and continuing to around 22,000 years in France and 20,000 years ago in Iberia. Solutrean is an upper Paleolithic culture, a time period that spanned from around 50,000 years ago and ended around 12,000 years ago at the Pleistocene-Holocene epoch transition. What separates Solutrean most distinctly from the Gravettian assemblages, which preceded it, was the manufacture and use of bifacial projectile points. These Solutrean points have several different styles, but are most well known for their bi-pointed, laurel leaf blades. This is the type of artifact that I'm replicating in this video. Prior to the LGM, Gravettian people moved north across Europe as far as southern Britain during a climatic warming event. With the LGM, the northern European landscape was too cold and dry for humans and the animals that they subsisted upon to survive. In southwest Europe and Iberia and France, the climate would have been more temperate and game animals thrived. It was here that prehistoric Europeans took refuge from the harsh climates of Earth's most recent glacial period. Solutrean points have four basic subtypes. The first is the laurel leaf blade. These are bipointed or willow leaf shaped blades that range from 3 to 10 centimeters long. They are bifacially flaked with a combination of percussion and pressure flaking. They were primarily employed as projectile points, but were also used as knives in some cases. Another variety is more triangular with a concave base. Yet another style is barbed and tanged, resembling later varieties of Neolithic arrowheads from Europe. The last type are shouldered points. These can be either unifacial or bifacial, and are usually made from blades or other long, narrow flakes. Like most Stone Age cultures, expedient flake tools made up a big part of Solutrean assemblages. Blades and bladelets, long, parallel-sided flakes removed from prepared cores, are a core component of Solutrean assemblages. These blades are actually far more common in Solutrean assemblages than bifacial tools. Both flakes and blades were used as is for cutting tools, but were also retouched into a number of other tool forms. Some of these tools include end scrapers for processing hides into clothing, burins for creating grooves in a variety of materials, and perforators for boring holes, and much more. Solutrean people also made use of bone and antler for tools. Eyed needles from bone were made and used by these Upper Paleolithic people, and would have been crucial for making tightly sewn, warm clothing to survive the LGM. bone was also used to create pointed, rod-like objects that were used as projectile points. These are called sagiae and would have been edged with blade fragments glued to the sides to make deadly hunting weapons. This style of projectile tip eventually phased out Solutrean bifaces with the Magdalenian cultural assemblages. Caves and rock shelters seem to have been the choice locations for Solutrean people to occupy residentially. Caves provided a degree of natural shelter from the elements such as wind and precipitation, also being warmer than the winter air due to the natural heat of the earth. Extensive hearths at most of these caves show that Solutreans used fire to warm their living space, provide light, and cook their food. It is very likely that they created additional shelter within the caves for more windbreak, privacy, and comfort. Open-aired Solutrean archaeological sites are much rarer. This may be because they are more exposed to erosional forces than cave sites, or because they are deeply buried and hard to discover. Hunting animals would have been a very important aspect of life for people during the Last Glacial Maximum. They certainly foraged for plant foods, although the climate made these less abundant and less important than they were to people later in prehistory during warm periods. Plants also do not preserve well, so we don't really know what plant foods Solutreans made use of. Faunal remains preserve much more readily. A wide range of animals were available for people to hunt during the LGM. While megafauna like mammoths, woolly rhinos, and large bovids are well known from this time period, Solutreans preferred less dangerous prey animals. Reindeer, horse, red deer, ibex, and other large to medium-sized game animals were the most commonly represented animals in Solutrean assemblages. The remains of smaller animals like rabbits, and occasionally fish, such as salmon, are found at Solutrean archaeological sites as well. Solutrean points would have been deadly effective implements for dispatching medium and large game animals. These could have been used as tips for thrusting and throwing spears, but there's good evidence they used another, more complex hunting system. The spear thrower, or ladle, seems to be evidenced by antler hooks found at several Solutrean sites. These antler and bone components would have been used to hook the ends of spears or darts to the spear thrower itself. Examples of these at ladle hooks have been found at sites like the Come Senier 1 cave and Placard cave, and resemble similar artifacts from other cultures in different times and places. Solutrean laurel leaf points and other tools that these people made were most commonly produced from flint, which occurs in relatively high quality in chalk deposits all over Europe. Solutrean peoples also used quartzite, quartz, chert, and a variety of lithic materials, but less frequently than flint. I'm using Georgetown flint to make my Solutrean laurel leaf blade. Georgetown flint occurs in chalk deposits in Texas, which differs from most sources of North American cherts that occur in limestone formations. Georgetown flint is of high workability and is comparable to some of the European flints, which is why I chose to use it for this point. Mirón Cave is a Solutrean site that is a bit different from normal long-term occupation sites. Located in Cantabria, Spain, it seems that people were returning here repeatedly for hunting parties. The remains of hearths here are much smaller than most residential sites, as is the density of artifacts. This cave overlooks a valley, which would have been relatively open during the LGM, but still dotted with pines and birch trees. A full range of Solutrean tools were found here, including 28 projectile points. All but one of these Solutrean points is in fragmentary condition. Willow or laurel leaf points, concave base points, and shoulder points are represented at Mirón Cave. Several sagiae have also been recovered here. What makes Mirón unique is that a large number of beads are found here. A total of 41 perforated bead or bead-like objects were excavated. These are made from bone, teeth, and shell. The shell beads were modified either by perforation or by having their ends removed in order to have holes going through the shell. Mollusk genuses that were used for making these beads include Anatelis, Patella, and Litorina. While beads and objects of personal adornment are found at other Solutrean sites, it is unusual to see such numbers as were found at Mirón. Since the Solutrean points at Mirón are in poor shape, they were probably intentionally discarded. Likely, Solutrean hunters returning to the cave removed the broken pieces from both their dead quarry and the ends of their spears. New, sharp points would have been hafted and taken away when the people left Mirón. Solutrean hunters who made use of Mirón Cave seem to prefer medium game animals, as evidenced by the faunal remains left inside the cave. Species hunted include chamois, roe deer, red deer, and ibex. Equine and bovine mammals do not seem to have been hunted by the people who made use of Mirón. Many of the bones of these animals show signs of cut marks from butchering, burning, and intentional smashing by people. Because many of the finished tools are all broken, the small size of the hearths, and the lack of comparability to residential Solutrean sites, researchers think that people used Mirón repeatedly for hunting expeditions, but did not live here full time. Some of the most beautiful and skillfully made lithic objects in Europe belong to the Volgu cache. This cache of Solutrean laurel leaf bifaces was discovered back in 1874 along the east bank of the Laurel River in France. While up to 30 blades may have been found initially, 13 are known today, housed in a museum in France. These bifaces are found deposited pointing upwards and arranged side by side, suggesting they were intentionally placed like this. The points range in length from 24 to 34 centimeters and vary in thickness from 0.6 to 1.2 centimeters, making them exceptionally thin. Volgu cache points are made from two varieties of flint, one caramel brown, the other gray-black. The material has been sourced to originate from the Turonian chalk sources near Gien, France, about 150 kilometers from the site. It has been proposed that some or all the blades in this cache were heat treated. However, spectrographic analysis shows that they were made from raw, high-quality flint. The points were reduced skillfully with percussion flaking and then retouched with pressure flaking. Only two other known Solutrean points are comparable in size to the blades in the Volgu cache. None of the Volgu points show signs of use wear or hafting traces. Researchers think that the Volgu cache blades were too thin and large to function as cutting implements, let alone as projectile points.